Our next speaker is Gunnar Knapp. He's a professor of economics at the University of Alaska Anchorage and director of social and economic research and one of my former professors. So please welcome Professor Knapp.
So you got a clicker?
Yes, I do. Let's just begin. The green one is a pointer on top, and the left or right. Let me get you loaded up here.
Hi. I'm Gunnar Knapp, and I confess it, I'm an economist, but I have a soul. And what I'm going to do in this real short talk is give you a little bit of economics, and but mostly try to talk about stuff that I think that goes beyond economics, because I think that our economy matters, money, stuff like that matters, but the real wealth in our city is the kind of people we've been hearing from and just heard about and that Kirsten told us about. I think that's where the strength of our city lies, and as we face economic challenges going ahead, it's through those kind of people and what they do and what we all need to do to give to our city that will make our city an even greater place. So my just comments are expect less, give more, feel better. So, briefly about me, what do I love about our city? I feel extremely privileged in the lifestyle I've had here in the 34 years that I've lived here and raised my family. I just felt like I'd died and gone to heaven when I showed up in Anchorage from the East Coast and encountered the bike trails and the skiing and the music scene, and later as I had kids, the wonderful schools that we had here, and I could go on and on and on. I just love this city and the kind of place it's been for me to live in. And I acknowledge that I live in a privileged area of town where we don't have many of the problems that people have talked about. I think there's a lot of people like me that have really benefited from a wonderful city to live in. In my job, I study the state's economy, and I'm here to tell you that looking forward, we should expect less from state government in the future. And unless we are very lucky with oil prices and oil discoveries, this state is going to have a lot less money to spend in the future than what we have had in the past. And it's driven partly by this enormous fall in the price of oil that's happened over the past 6 months that has cut the value of the oil produced in Alaska by more than half and cut our revenues by even greater amount. And it's also by the fact that our state oil production has been declining. So we have less oil, lower price, a lot less money. And this is what our state spending, revenues, and deficit look like this year. We are spending $5.9 billion in the state this year, but our revenues, our oil revenues, are only $2.6 billion. So they're paying for this deficit mostly by drawing down our savings at a rate of $4,500 per Alaskan this year. And we don't have savings enough to keep doing this much longer, possibly 4, 5, 6, 7 years at the most, depending upon what happens to oil prices. And so what this means is that all these things that state government pays for is going to be enormous pressure to cut them. And we're seeing this pressure is just starting this year in the legislature, because and I was down watching the legislature, and time and again people say, well, you can't cut this valuable thing. People said, well, we just don't have the money. And I'm a pretty liberal person, and I value a lot of services a lot, but I'm here to tell you, we just don't have the money for a lot of stuff that we have done in the past and that the state pays for, that gives us so much of what makes this city a great place. So, what are we going to do about it? And I think that what we are going to do is we are all going to have to give more to keep and build what we love about this community. And part of what I mean by giving more is we're going to have to pay taxes and higher fees to help pay for state government services. Okay? Now, I go a little crazy when I hear people say, well, taxes are off the table from this discussion. Don't talk to me about taxes. And I sort of think, really? All this stuff we get, and we're supposed to get it for free? We don't have any obligation to help pay for all these wonderful things we get from the state that make our city so great? We pay tiny taxes to the state compared with any other state in the country, and we don't have any obligation. So I just sort of wonder about that. I think we all have an obligation to contribute to what we get. But that obligation goes beyond the taxes we pay, way beyond the taxes we pay. Every one of us needs to give to this community. And what makes the community great, what makes a community great is when everybody is giving in some way. And like the people at this table that are doing extraordinary stuff for this community, or like the people Kirsten writes about. And of course, we've heard about these people, and we all know all kinds of people that exemplify this in what they do. And so how can we give to this community? Well, one, the simplest way is we can contribute to the organizations that make this community. So I love skiing, that's part of my lifestyle. I love cross-country skiing. That's why I live in Anchorage, so that I can enjoy the kind of skiing we've had this winter. But I have an obligation, and so does every one of us who skis, to contribute to the Nordic Ski Club to help pay for those beautiful trails I ski on. And thousands of people do, but thousands of people don't. And the second thing that we can all do is we can all volunteer. We can volunteer, and it's volunteers that make this city so great for all the wonderful things that are going on around us. I love to ski, and I have spent, the way I play on the weekend is I'm one of those ski racers. But the people who make that ski race possible are the volunteers. And, my wife is one of those. She goes out and stands out in the cold for 6 or 7 hours every weekend, all winter, to help make these races possible. And so do a lot of other people. They're just remarkable in what they give. And I think that it is those people, and in so many other ways, in all the things that go on in this town and the events, they are the volunteers. And then the various organizations that give this town, they have their boards. And we need people who will make those things happen. And the community councils have the volunteers that serve as the officers. We all need more of this. We all have an obligation. And I guess another way that I just sort of always like to get this in, we can all help make Anchorage more beautiful. I don't know if you've read this book. If you've had kids, you should read it to them. If you haven't read this book, you ought to read it. The story of Miss Rumphius. And she's a little girl, and her, she talks to her grandfather who had many adventures and sailed all around the world. And she said, well, when I grow up, I want to go and have many adventures like you and travel. And her grandfather says, well, that's great, but there's one more thing you have to do in your life, and you must do something to make the world more beautiful. And I think we all have an obligation to do what we can do to make Anchorage more beautiful. Our city is, God, what gorgeous surroundings we live in. And yet why we're sometimes embarrassed to bring our friends here and drive them through our city. So say, look at the mountains, don't look down, right? We can all make a difference in this, and every single person who plants a garden or makes their home or their yard more beautiful, or their business, or just goes out and cleans up trash on community cleanup day, those people collectively are what makes our city a wonderful, beautiful place. So I guess this is an amazing example. A friend of mine actually built this this bridge for a little trail he built privately just to help people enjoy that scenery. And here's my final message. Giving more feels better. If you volunteer, if you give money, if you make your yard more beautiful, you will feel better. You go out and stand 6 hours and help make the race happen for the skiers. Those people have fun. And they get the sense of pride and belonging in their community. And I think you can get that a little with taxes, although that's stretching it a little. But so that's my message. Thanks.